What if the one person you trusted with everything was the one planning to take everything from you? Not a stranger, not an enemy, your best friend. The man who sat at your table, who knew your fears, who knew exactly how much money you had just received. This is the story of Christopher, and the day his trust became his death sentence. If you've ever given someone your loyalty and had it thrown back in your face, you need to hear this. Subscribe to Crime Flux right now, because we don't just tell stories. We hold up a mirror to the darkest corners of human nature, so you never get blindsided. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and stay with me, because this one will shake you to your core. Let's get into it. Los Angeles, late summer, 2013. The city is loud and relentless, the way it always is. Sirens in the distance, the smell of concrete baking under August heat, life moving fast in every direction. But for 27-year-old Christopher, everything had finally slowed down, in the best possible way. For years he had been grinding, scraping, surviving in a city that doesn't forgive weakness. He had watched opportunities passing by, felt the weight of life that never quite got started, and wondered if things would ever change. Then they did. A legal settlement came through. Not lottery money, not the kind of wealth that buys yachts and vacations homes, but enough to reset, enough to breathe, enough to finally close a painful chapter and start a new one. New apartment, new beginnings, a life that finally felt like his. But Christopher had one problem. He didn't trust banks. Now, before you judge that, understand where it comes from. When you've grown up in a world where institutions fail the people around you, where money seems to vanish into systems you didn't understand and couldn't control, you start to look for alternatives. You look for someone human, someone real, someone you know. And Christopher knew exactly who he trusted. Isauro Aguirre. They had grown up in the same world, same neighborhood, same kind of struggles. They had built a friendship, the way real friendships get built, slowly, through years of shared moments, hard times, and the kind of loyalty that you don't find on every corner. They weren't just friends, they were like brothers. Christopher told people this. He believed this. And so, in what felt like the most logical decision in the world to him, he made Aguirre part of the agreement. He brought him in, gave him access, trusted him with the money temporarily, just until he figured out the next step. Because if you can't trust your brother, who can you trust? At first, nothing changed. Life moved forward, conversations happened, plans were discussed. But there's a specific kind of poison that money introduces into certain relationships. It doesn't announce itself, it doesn't arrive with warning signs or dramatic music. It seeps in quietly, like water through a crack in the wall. Slowly, silent, and by the end you notice it, the damage has already begun. Christopher started noticing things, small things at first. Aguirre's text took longer to come back. Conversations that used to flow easy now felt forced. His friend, his brother, became hard to read, distant, defensive, even when nothing had been said. Christopher felt the shift the way you feel a change in weather before the storm usually arrives. That low pressure unease, the instinct that something is wrong but you can't quite name it. He mentioned it to someone close to him. 3 words. He's acting weird. Weird about the money. It was a small confession. Sat in passing maybe. The kind of thing you say when you're processing out loud, when you're hoping someone will tell you you're overthinking it. But Christopher wasn't overthinking it. That conversation, those 3 words, would be the last time anyone heard anything about it. That night Christopher disappeared. Neighbours in the area heard something. Voices raised and not immediately alarming. Arguments happened, especially between people who know each other while you're then something changed in the sound. Thud. The kind of sound that doesn't have an innocent explanation. And then silence. A silence so complete, it felt wrong. Christopher never picked up his phone again. When his family reported him missing, police were cautious. Adults go missing for all kinds of reasons, they're told. People leave, people disappear by choice sometimes. But the people who loved Christopher weren't buying it. This wasn't a man who ran from his life. This was a man who had just gotten his life. He had money, he had plans, he had a future mapped out in his head. Small, pacific, hopeful things that people only dream about when they actually believe tomorrow will come. People who are planning their future don't just vanish. Investigators started looking. Then came the footage, surveillance cameras, a nearby property. The video showed Christopher alive, walking, entering a location. He never came out the other side. And that property, that address, It belonged to Aguirre. When detectives brought Aguirre in for questioning, he had his story ready. Christopher left, he said. Everything was fine. They talked. Things were normal. And Christopher walked out the door. But investigators are trained to listen to more than just words. They watch the body. They read the spaces between sentences. And what Aguirre's body was saying told a completely different story. His hands moved too much. His eyes contact disappeared at the wrong moments. His breathing was controlled in that specific, deliberate way people breathe when they're managing internal panic. He wasn't grieving. He was confused. He was performing. Search teams moved through the property, and what they found dismantled every word Aguirre had said. Blood traces, evidence of a violent struggle, the forensic signature of a scene that someone had tried and failed to fully sanitize. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a fight that went too far in the way people sometimes imagine. Some tragic, unintentional moment of escalation. This was a killing, methodical enough in its aftermath to suggest intent, brutal enough in its execution to suggest something darker than a single moment of rage. Under the weight of the evidence, the story Aguirre had been holding began to collapse. Piece by piece, the truth came out. Christopher had come back for what was his. He wanted the money back. His money. The settlement that was supposed to change his life. The conversation turned into a confrontation. Aguirre refused. And when words weren't quite enough to keep Christopher quiet, he turned to violence. What followed was an attack that Christopher had no reason to see coming, because you don't brace yourself against your brother. You don't keep your guard up around the one person you gave your trust to freely. That's what made it so devastating. That's what made it so final. After the attack, Aguirre tried to scrub the evidence, clean the scene, make it look like Christopher had simply walked out and never returned. But here's the truth about violent crime that most people don't understand. The human body leaves behind traces that are almost impossible to fully erase. Forensic science exists specifically because the truth has a way of surviving even when the most deliberate attempts to bury it. Every drop of blood tells a story. Every disturbed surface holds memory. Every physical detail adds up, and all of it pointed to one man. In court, prosecutors didn't just argue murder. They argued betrayal as its own category of horror. They walked the jury through the relationship, the years of friendship, the shared history, the absolute trust Christopher had extended. They showed how Aguirre had used that trust as a weapon, how he had taken proximity and love and turned it into access, and then turned that access into something unforgivable. The jury didn't take long. Guilty. As the verdict was read, Christopher's family sat in the courtroom in silence. There was no celebration, because the thing about this kind of justice is that it comes too late to matter in the way justice is supposed to matter. It can't give Christopher his future back. It can't undo the trust he gave away so freely. It can only name what happened and make sure the man responsible faces the consequences of it. Aguirre was convicted of murder, and the money? The settlement that was supposed to reset Christopher's life never brought him a single day of future he had promised. Here's what this case forces us to recognize. We're raised to fear the stranger, the unknown person, the unfamiliar face. But the research on violent crime tells a different story. Most violence doesn't come from outside. It comes from within the circle. From the people who already have our trust, our access, our vulnerability. Money didn't create a killer out of Aguirre. It revealed one. The greed was already there. The resentment was already there. The willingness to cross a line that most human beings would never approach, that was already there. The settlement just gave it a reason to resurface. Christopher thought he knew who his brother was. He was right about the years. He was wrong about the man. If this story hit you the way it hit me, like a cold reminder that the people closest to you are the ones you can't afford to stop paying attention to, then hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Crime Fox Stories so you never miss a story like this. And I want to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever trusted someone completely and had that trust shattered? What did it teach you? Drop it below. I read every single one. Stay sharp, stay aware, and I'll see you in the next one.